Good evening and welcome to the Year 11 Information Evening. This year we've chosen to continue with an online version of the evening, as we did something similar last year which many students found particularly useful as they could access the information throughout the year. Of course, this year will be an important year for all the Year 11 students as they will be working towards their GCSE exams this summer. At the moment, the information we've received for 2022 is that the exams will take place as they would have pre-COVID. However, the indication so far is that there may be some adjustments to the overall content students will be examined on in the summer. However, at the moment, this has not been confirmed yet, but students will be informed when we receive further information from the DfE. In the meantime, Mr Southwell, the Deputy Head Teacher, and the curriculum team leaders have put together a range of videos which provide detailed information for each subject. This can be accessed by students and parents via our YouTube channel throughout the year. You'll find this information valuable to support you not only in working towards the GCSE exams, but it's also providing information on different progression routes, including applying to our own sixth form. This is an important year for our students as this will be the first step into adult life. And my best advice was for both parents and students is to always ask as many questions as you need and ask for help whenever you need it. We're here to help all of you through this year and to be successful, and we want our students to fulfil their potential so they can have the widest possible range of options for the future. I want to take this opportunity to wish you all the very best throughout this year, and please let us know if you need anything at all. Enjoy this evening. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you Mrs Lawson, and good evening to all the Year 11 students and the parents that have tuned in for tonight's broadcast. The format of the evening is where I'm going to start, and I won't apologise, there is going to be a huge amount of information given out tonight. And one of the good things about being able to do this remotely is that we can keep it on our website and on our YouTube channel, so you can access it throughout the year when it becomes really useful. So I'm going to start with an overview of Year 11, what the expectations are, and sorry Year 11s, you have heard this from me this week in an assembly already. I'll talk a little bit about exams, so mock exams and public exams, a little bit around the extracurricular support we offer, and some of the pastoral support that's on offer to all students as well. I'm then going to hand over to Mrs Kane, who's going to speak to you a little bit around careers and next steps, and then you're going to hear from our core subject leaders, so you'll hear from English, Maths and Science, and they're going to talk around the course structure, the key dates and the support that they're offering in each of their subject areas. And there'll be a chance to click on the videos for each of your optional subjects. That means you don't have to watch every single video tonight, just those that apply to you. And we'll finish this evening with the opportunity to ask some questions around Year 11 using the website and the email link that we sent through earlier. So just before we begin, I'm going to take this opportunity to promote something that we feel is very useful to all our Year 11 students and also to the students as they progress into the sixth form. And they are flashcards. It's a well-proven resource that works really well for ensuring students remember things. And exams are all about memory. It's how much you can remember and how much you can apply in a certain context. So flashcards are really important. We sell them in school and we don't make any profit on them. In fact, we sell them cheaper than any of the local shops. They are £1 per packet. They can be bought by the students from the finance office in the maths corridor, or there is a link on the Wise Pay section of our school website, so you can order them online and students can go and collect them. But they are really useful tools to help people revise in every single subject area. So I'm going to begin with an overview of what Year 11 students are expected to do. Now, the first thing we expect of our Year 11 students is that they're role models. All of the students in the other year groups look up to Year 11 students. Year 11s are the pinnacle of the main school, and other students want to be like them and copy their behaviours. So we expect Year 11 students in lessons and around school to be demonstrating what we truly want Radcliffe students to be. Now that might be behaviour, that might be uniform, but it's also around their academic efforts. We expect students to try and do the very best they can in all of their subject areas, to try and meet and hopefully exceed their target scores. We also hope that Year 11s take the opportunity to attend all of the extracurricular activities. Some of these are the fun enrichment type activities that we've seen throughout the school journey from Year 7 right the way through to Year 11, but lots of them now will turn towards an academic focus, so that we're trying to improve the outcomes in each of the GCSE and BTEC subjects students study. We also hope that students prepare well for their exams, and we'll support students as best we can with how to do that. And we also hope that students are really well organised. If students are organised, they are definitely going to be more successful. So the journey through Year 11. You've been in school for 10 years already, Year 11 students. So this is your final chapter, if you like, before you go on to your next steps. We spoke in Assembly this week, and you have 27 school weeks left. Now that doesn't sound like an awful lot of time when you think about it in the big picture of your education, but as we spoke about in the Assembly, you can achieve a huge amount in 27 weeks. So with a really well organised plan and a really thought out plan, you'll be really successful come the summer of Year 11. In order to do that, what you need to do is to know your grades. So you need to know where you are in every subject area and what you're capable of achieving. And your staff in each subject area will advise you on what you need to do to improve, the types of resources you could use, as well as some of the content areas that you might need to improve. If you use your PLCs, which every student has access to, you will have a complete overview for every subject around your strengths and weaknesses, and it will direct your home study as well as what you're doing in lesson time. Now, students and parents have access to a product called Insight, and I will talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation, but Insight does include a feature where you can see your PLC, which is updated periodically throughout the year. So you can always see your strengths and weaknesses whether you're in school or at home. Okay, if we move on to exams. The exam schedule over the past few years has been very different for obvious reasons. We're hoping for your current year group that it will return to normality and that you'll sit exams in the usual way. The DfE haven't yet confirmed the exact dates and they haven't yet confirmed the exact content of the exams. But our best guess is that the exam dates won't vary too much. In all likelihood, they might get moved back 1 or 2 weeks, but that's only a maybe as it stands. And in terms of the content, I would imagine that you're still going to be studying the full syllabus for every subject area. As soon as we find any information from the DfE, we will share that via a letter to the students and also using the school Facebook page and the school website. When it comes to the grades that students will be awarded, we have the 9-to-1 grading system for all GCSEs now, with 9 being an A star and a grade 1 being an old G grade. The only subjects that have a slightly different grading system are the BTECs and the OCR Nationals, and they are graded from a distinction star at the top down to a pass at the bottom. Now, in terms of students moving on to their next steps after Year 11, we're looking at 2 distinct grades that people are looking for, and that is a standard pass being a grade 4 and a strong pass being a grade 5. Most subject areas no longer have controlled assessments. The BTECs are a slight exception to that, where there is lots of coursework involved, and also some of the more practical subjects where it's not all exam-based assessment. Most exams for most subjects will take place in the summer of 2022. However, there will be the odd exception, and that might be early in 2022, normally in January or February. When it comes to mock exams, the students sat a series of mock exams last year as Year 10s, and I've got to say we must congratulate them because their behaviour and their conduct throughout those 2 weeks was fantastic. And we had some really strong results coming through. And even where those results weren't quite so strong, it gave us a really clear indication about what we have to do next, working with individuals and groups. Moving through Year 11, we will have 1 set of mock exams, and they're going to take place in January. And it will be a full exam experience. So you will sit the full amount of papers that each subject has, at the full length and at the full level. So there'll be no modification of any papers. And those exams are going to start straight after the Christmas holiday, and that's the week beginning the 3rd of January. They will last approximately 2 weeks, and then we'll have a 2-week marking period with the staff. And once we have got the results through, what we will be doing is inviting the students and the parents into a results morning, like you would do for the real thing. Now, if the restrictions don't allow parents to come into site at that period of time, what we'll do an online alternative. We hope it's going to be an in-person event, however. Now, during that morning, we will allow the students to open their results for the first time. They won't know the results at that time, and we'll have a discussion like we will in the summer of 2022, where we'll be discussing what these results allow you to move on to. Now, for some people, that's a really positive morning. For some people, it's a reality check. And for some people, it's not a great morning, but it's something we feel we have to do in order to have that reality check, if you like, and say, this is where we are currently heading with this performance. and it gives us plenty of time to be able to fix things that are going wrong. And finally, the provisional dates for exams, the public exams they are, that is the 16th of May 2022. And like I say, they're currently provisional, and as soon as they are confirmed, we'll share that information out to students and parents. When it comes to revision and independent study, which are crucial for exams, there are a few key principles that we ask students to follow. So I'm just going to run through those very briefly now. First of all, you need a sensible study programme. I've already mentioned there are 27 weeks left. So if we have a 27-week plan, that means we don't have to cram too much into each week. If we're one of the students who leaves everything to the last minute, chances are we're not going to be able to cram everything in that short period of time. And certainly scientific studies suggest that you can't cram that information into such a short period of time. So please plan it out sensibly over 27 weeks. Once you've got your plan, you've got to make sure that you follow it. So it's all well and good having a study plan, but if you don't follow it, it's not worth the paper it's written on. You also need a really good balance of your subject areas. We spoke in assembly this week about historically maths and English being the only two important subjects to most students. That's still the case that they are important, but it's no longer the case they're the only ones that are important. So please make sure that you balance out all of your subject areas and give equal attention to all of them. Because on your CV, when you hand over your set of results, we're looking for a full suite of good results to be written on that piece of paper, not just one or two. Because if you've got some weaker areas, it says A, there is a weakness, or B, maybe you haven't tried as much as you could have done. And that doesn't make you as attractive on a CV. And finally, make sure your study time is good quality study time. And what I mean by that is avoid distractions, your phones, your games consoles, your TV, your friends, your family. You've got to have short periods of good study time. If you have a phone on, if you have music on, that is a distraction. And I know lots of people find that comforting to have music on, but we've recently been through a staff training session where we had somebody come and talk to us about how we learn, an expert who's worked with various football clubs and universities. And they were actually conducting a survey where if you have music on, you probably lose 2/3 of the information that's coming through to you. So it's really important, have a short period of time where you've got absolutely no distraction. We have lots of revision tools that we supply students with, and one of those are the Pixel apps. It's the same login for each of the apps that you can see on the screen at the moment. There are apps for maths, for English literature, for history, for geography, for times tables, and also for vocabulary across all subject areas. Now, within these apps, there are lots of resources that students can go directly to based on the weaknesses they are currently exhibiting on their PLC. So please use them wisely. Please go and look at the areas that you need to develop. And it's quite normal for students to try and find a comfort area and go to the things that they can already do well and just get lots of high scores on it. But that doesn't actually help you progress. So please use your PLCs to inform how you revise using the Pixel apps. GCSE Pod is a brilliant resource as well, and it's one that we've subscribed to for a few years now. So a number of Year 11 students have used that over the past few years, and it's been really successful. There are thousands and thousands of short videos for lots and lots of different subjects. In fact, it covers most of your subjects bar one or two of them. It's currently being developed, so it has more and more resources in it, and it has more and more areas where you can actually test your understanding. Originally it started out as just videos, but now there's lots of test areas. And the really good thing about this, it's quite bite-sized in nature, so the videos are quite short, normally between 3 and 5 minutes long, and the questions that go with it, there's normally no more than 3 to 5 questions. So it's something that can be done in a short period of time, so it allows your attention span to maybe watch 2 or 3 videos, do 3 or 4 short tests to go with it, and then not overwhelm yourself with too much information. There are currently over 8,500 pods on there, and that's being developed all the time, so probably by the time you get through to the summer, there'll be close to 10,000 pods on there. These can be downloaded, so you don't use your data, but they can also be streamed live as well. Seneca Learning is another really useful website, and again it covers multiple subject areas. This one doesn't require a subscription, it just needs you to log in and create your own account. Again, you can set up your own exam boards to match what we do in school. It is also bite-sized in nature as well, The one thing I would say with Seneca is that it probably doesn't go into as much depth, and it certainly doesn't cover as many topic areas. So I would suggest maybe using a combination of Seneca and GCSE Pod, with GCSE Pod your main source of information. In terms of extracurricular support this year, we always offer period 7 lessons to our Year 11 students, and what that is, that's a lesson that goes from 3 o'clock until 3:50. And typically these run on a Tuesday, a Wednesday and a Thursday, and occasionally for certain subjects on a Friday. We encourage students to go to these sessions because we can really focus in on those areas from the PLCs where students have got clear weaknesses, and we can really focus on those in a targeted way and make rapid improvements. We don't make these compulsory, so if students in Year 11 don't go to them, that's entirely fine. However, my strong recommendation is that students come to as many of them as they can. Over the past few years where we have delivered period 7 lessons, it's been a real clear difference between those that do and those that don't. In fact, I would say that on average, most students get at least 1 grade higher in every single subject area if they attend the period 7 lessons regularly. It's no good just turning up for 1 or 2, and it's no good just doing it for the odd subject. Please turn up for these 27 weeks to every one of those sessions, and it's almost guaranteed you're going to get a higher grade than if you don't. The schedule for these will be published next week, so students will be handed a schedule for the entire year, which will show you which stage which subjects are on, and we'll also add a copy of that onto the Year 11 website section. So please check our school website under Year 11 and you'll see it in there. And each half term we'll email via InTouch a copy to parents so you can see what's on this half term. Sometimes we invite students to these sessions based on their PLC weaker areas, but also students can drop into them if they just want to revise some topic areas that they haven't done for a while. So nobody will ever be turned away from them. And certainly it's worthwhile turning up, even if you pick up one thing during that session, that might be an extra mark or an extra few marks that just boost you up to the next grade come exam season. In terms of the staff that are on offer to support you, we mentioned in the assembly this week that the staff are really focused on our Year 11 students because it's our last year with you, and we really are keen to enable you to have as many options as you possibly can at the end of Year 11 and move on to what's right for you as students. So all of your subject staff will play a key role. They will talk to you about your subject content and how we can progress you as best we can through your PLCs, as well as the content we haven't yet covered. Subject leaders, so they will coordinate lots of additional support for you. It might be after school sessions. So please work with your subject staff and the subject leaders and take the most opportunity you can from what they have to offer. Your form tutors, they're somebody you see every single day. And again, they go through Year 11 every year with students. You guys will only have to go through it once, but they go through it every year. So they become quite expert on helping. Who are the right people to speak to? How do we set up a revision plan? When's a good time to start? So please liaise with your form tutors. Like I said, they're a daily contact for you. Your heads of house, another great source of support. I work really closely with your heads of house, all 4 of them, and we talk about every single student on a really regular basis to see how we can make you progress as best you can, both academically and pastorally. There are also a huge team of inclusion staff who are here to support you as well, so please engage with what they have to offer. And finally, one of my main roles during the school year is to work with Year 11s, so all of you know that I'm available most lunchtimes, and you know where my office as well. So please come and ask a question or drop me an email. And just before I hand over to Mrs. Kane, who's going to talk you through the next steps opportunities we have at Radcliffe, I'm just going to talk a little bit about Insight. So Insight is a product, an online product, either an app or a web-based product that students and parents can use. And it has a whole load of information inside it. One of the main reasons I'm plugging it tonight is because of the PLCs. The PLCs are there for every single subject area, so you can see those strengths and weaknesses. But you can also see lots of other important information, including progress checks, exam timetables for your mocks and your real exams, behaviour, attendance. So there's a whole wealth of information about each student. Parents, we would need your correct and up-to-date email addresses. So if you're having any difficulty, you'll see there's an email address on the screen. That's insight@radcliffeschool.org.uk, and we can help you with any account issues. And students, you log in using your normal network credentials. Okay, so I'm now going to hand over to Mrs. Kane, who will introduce herself and explain how she supports Year 11 students throughout the year.
Hi, my name's Laura Kane and I am the Radcliffe School's Careers Lead. My official title is Careers Education, Information and Advice and Guidance, but Careers Advisor would equally cover all of that. I'm a member of the Careers Development Institute. I'm a fully qualified careers advisor, and as part of my role I have to ensure that your child is spoken to with impartiality, to give them informed advice so that they can make the decisions for their future. So it's very much about being impartial and telling your child all the pathways forward for their next destinations, whether that be a sixth form, a college, an apprenticeship, whatever they decide to do. I'm based in the sixth form in Radcliffe, so students can come down and find me there, or they can email me, or they can come to the careers drop-in that runs twice a week. So, to give you some context as to what your child isn't and isn't allowed to do when they leave school, back in 2013 there was new legislation to raise the participation age for young people that were in school. This means that your child has to remain in some form of education or employment with training until their 18th birthday. So gone are the days of them leaving school and just going into employment. They do have to ensure that they have education or employment with training. So this can take the form of a sixth form, it can take the form of a college, apprenticeships and traineeships. And it can include employment, but it's really important to note that as part of that, they have to have training of 280 guided learning hours per year, which basically equates to 1 day a week. And there aren't that many employers out there, obviously, that would offer that, so very few young people take that option. All the destinations for Year 11 are reported on to the local council as per the requirements. And any student that is not participating then becomes noted as NEET, and that stands for not in employment, education or training. And clearly we don't want that for your child, and I know you don't want that for themselves as well. So normally we would present the next steps PowerPoint presentation in an assembly to Year 11, but due to the restrictions I will now be presenting this in the Modern Britain classes over the next 4 weeks. So every child should see me over the next 4 weeks. And at that point, as well as talking about the opportunities and the career pathways that they can take, I will also be discussing the importance of their English and maths and their sciences as well. That grade 4 is absolutely key, especially for maths and English. The reason for that is if they don't achieve a grade 4 in school, then they will have to retake that with their next training provider, whether that's an apprenticeship or a college or another sixth form. Students are entitled to have a one-to-one conversation with me if they would like to do so, or they can come along to my drop-in clinics, which are held in sixth form twice a week, and they will have been emailed to find out when those are. So it really depends on what the student would like. If they want a very quick chat and just to check something, then come to the drop-in. If they want something a little bit more in depth, then it's better to have a meeting. And they need to find out now about the information on sixth forms and the college open evenings. It's really important they find out what the entrance requirements are, because students seem to not realise that all providers will be asking for certain requirements, even the apprenticeships. And so they need to find out what it is that they want to study and what the expectation is of their GCSEs to get onto that course. That should all be available on the college and sixth form websites, and then apprenticeships individually as they advertise their vacancies. Apprenticeships, we try to make it clear that apprenticeships are very competitive. They already were, but now with COVID, we are facing less opportunities in the local area than were out there. So what I say is, they need to make sure that they have always got a plan B. It's all very fine to say I want an apprenticeship, but if they don't get one, what are they going to do instead? College places can become full, especially towards the end of the summer, and the same with sixth forms, they will have a cut-off date, so they may not accept any late applications. And around about January, February, we will have one-to-one meetings with either myself or a member of the senior leadership team to ensure that what the students' plans are, that they're appropriate for their career path and that they are actually going to be able to achieve those entrance requirements. So the students really need to make sure that they're doing some research on this. And again, because they've got their GCSEs coming, it's better to do this earlier so that they can say, yep, I've applied to everything I need to, and I'm just going to get on with concentrating on my GCSEs. So often parents say to me, how can I help my child? What should I do? Students always say to me that the dreaded question that they get from parents is when they're sitting around the dining table of an evening and the parent says, so have you decided what you're going to do with your life yet? And the answer from my point of view is that quite often they do not have a definitive career plan, and it's absolutely fine that they don't. And even if they do have a plan, it may well change. And you might sometimes feel like you're slightly on a roller coaster with them as to what they do and don't want to. I know with my son, 1 minute he wants to be a teacher, next minute he wants to be in the police, and he changes like the wind. It's important that you're realistic with your child and that you explain to them that if they are thinking that they're going to go into something that their predicted grades and their mocks are not indicating, that you're quite candid with them and that you say to them that, maybe it's achievable somewhere along the line, but that they shouldn't set themselves up for an A level in maths, for instance, if they're currently predicted 4s or 5s, because they won't cope with the course content. So perhaps talk about your experiences, what you did in the past, how you felt at their age, and also talk about, that they need to be resilient and that they need to keep trying and applying, especially if it's apprenticeships. They may feel quite rejected if they keep being turned down. So I always say to the students, it's a little bit like being on a trapeze. If you imagine being at the circus, that they are going to be swinging on this trapeze, and then as they get towards the end of the year, they're going to do their exams and they're going to let go and they're going to try and catch the next trapeze. And I always say to them, what if? Is there a safety net below that trapeze? Because if you don't get the exam results that you want to go on to your next destination, then you're going to crash, and we don't want that to happen. So for all students, I encourage an application to sixth form and to the college, or college and apprenticeships, just in case they don't get their first choice. If you are worried at all or you need extra advice, then obviously I am here to support you as well as your child. So please do make sure you contact me. So my email is on the slides in front of you, so you can contact me through there. But other places to get information, obviously we have a school Facebook, and there is information for parents on our website underneath the careers heading. National Careers Service, there is a web chat and a free telephone service should you want to talk to anybody there. And you can also look on the National Apprenticeship Service. So that's it from me. I've covered a lot of information in a very quick amount of time. So as I said, any problems, just let me know.
Thank you, Mrs. Kane. And as Mrs. Kane mentioned, please make the most of a fantastic opportunity that you as students have at this school. And not every school has a Mrs. Kane equivalent. So we're very fortunate, and Mrs. Kane is very good at what she does. Now I'm going to move on to the questions that have come through to the email box that we set up especially for this evening. And that was y11info@radcliffeschool.org.uk. So we've had some questions sent through. Hopefully we've managed to answer lots of the questions throughout the presentations tonight. And we've got a few more that I'm just going to address now. But if we don't, please continue to send them through to that email address, which we will monitor and will reply to you individually. So the first question that we've had through this evening is, will this year group get after school extra lessons that have been offered previously? And if not, what additional work is being set? So I hope that we've already addressed that, and we do have lots of period 7 lessons that will be calendared and advertised next week. There are also a group of sessions for each subject called engagement sessions. Now these are directed at particular students, and your students, your sons and daughters, will get invited particularly to these sessions from a member of staff where they might be slightly behind. And that will come through in the form of an email, and typically they're slightly later in the evening. Sometimes they're online, so they will typically run between 4 and 6 o'clock. We don't run anything after 6 o'clock because we're very aware that that cuts into social time and family time, so certainly nothing would be after 6 o'clock. So please look out for the engagement sessions as well. In terms of additional work, we've done lots of work with our curriculum leaders to look at the gaps that have been caused by COVID, and we're in a very fortunate position where we weren't actually too far behind at all. And where we were behind, we've made strides to make sure we can cover that in our curriculum coverage as we progress through Year 11. And if we need to, we'll do additional sessions which we'll inform students of as the year progresses. Next question, do you have official dates of exams yet, and are they still up for debate? Again, I think I've alluded to this already this evening. So we have the 16th of May as the provisional start of exams, and they typically run for 3 to 4 weeks. However, these are provisional, and as soon as they are confirmed, we will let you know. Best guess for us is that if anything, they might get pushed back 1 or 2 weeks, but I wouldn't imagine it'd be any further than that. In terms of a debate, there isn't a debate. They are prescribed for us. We have no choice. So once the government and the exam boards agree them, we will publish them so everybody has access to them. Next question is around assessments and mock exams, so we know where the students are and what they need to improve on. So I've already mentioned once this evening that we do have a set of mock exams in January, and that will be a full set that covers every single subject area. So we will not only get a really comprehensive picture of where the students are, the students will experience what it's like in the summer of 2022 as well. But even if we didn't have that, I think what we have in our PLCs gives us a really clear picture of what our students do and don't know. So please really engage with those PLCs, and just to confirm, that stands for Personalised Learning Checklists. They are available in every single subject area. Students can ask their staff for them, but again, they are available on Insight for every subject area, and it's updated periodically throughout the year. We've had a question around SEN students and whether there will be any adaptations to exams for SEN students. In terms of the exam themselves, there wouldn't be any adaptations, but there are things called access arrangements for students who meet the eligibility requirements. So Miss Johnson takes care of our testing for that area of the school, and most students who we feel would be eligible have been tested. However, if students come to light throughout the year that we now think also need that testing, we will make sure that happens as well. It normally takes the form of additional time or a scribe or a reader, but there are very strict thresholds for the eligibility of that. And ultimately that's down to the exam boards to grant permission for it. So I'm going to finish this evening just with the final slide, which indicates to all the students which exam boards we use as a school. So there are 4 main exam boards: AQA, OCR, Pearson, which is sometimes referred to as Edexcel, and the Welsh board, which is WGEC. So you can see which subjects use which exam board, and please just make sure that on 1 or 2 of them, so maths as an example, we do use 2 exam boards, and you need to choose the one that is specific to the tier that you study. As we said, this information is going to stay on our school website throughout the year, so please refer to it whenever you need to. Any contacts you'd like to make, either with me or with a head of house or with a form tutor, please do so. All of the contact details are on the school website. They're also in student planners. And I'd like to say thank you for attending this evening, and best of luck to all the Year 11 students this year. And I'm looking forward to working with you as the year progresses. Have a good night.
Hello, my name's Mr Humble. I'm the Key Stage 4 Maths Lead at the Radcliffe School, and welcome to the Year 11 Subject Information Evening from a Maths point of view. So as you can see on this particular slide, you've got myself and Mr Morrison, and there are our email addresses if ever you want to contact us. So for the Maths GCSE 9-1 course, which has been known as in the last few years, as you can see, there's a much greater focus on problem solving. There's a requirement to provide clear mathematical arguments. There's added content at both higher and foundation level. In other words, at the foundation level, there's some higher tier content from previous years that's been added to it. And at the higher level, there's a little bit of A-level content from a few years ago that's now in the higher GCSE course. No formulae is provided. Students are expected to remember them. Later on in my PowerPoint, it will show you where you can actually access that formulae for your students to be able to revise those. So for the higher tier at the top, there's an equal weighting. They'll do 3 papers and they're worth 80 marks each. For the foundation at the bottom of the slide, there is an equal weighting, but they are actually 100 marks each, but they get the same length of time. For foundation tier, you can get grades 5 to 1, and for higher tier, you can get grades 9 to 4. These are the main resources we use at the Radcliffe School. So if you look in the top left, we've got the access to foundation books for students who might struggle a little bit with maths and might need to do some slightly easier maths to get their confidence up before they can actually access the main foundation course. And after that, if you follow the arrows, they go to the green big foundation book and the additional green revision guides and revision workbooks, which you can buy via WisePay from the school. Equally, the higher tier would use the big blue books at the bottom, and you can also buy the revision workbook and revision guide from WisePay via the school. There are some selected students from the top set that we always get to do the additional GCSE statistics course, and when they do that alongside their GCSE maths, they will sit 2 papers at the end of the year, and they are both have equal weighting and equal time and equal marks. And they are the statistics books that we use to deliver the course. Some key dates. Now you're going to notice this would be a little bit ironic that it says key dates, but a lot of these dates we haven't got confirmed for obviously reasons related to the pandemic. But for the mock exams, they are to be confirmed by the school. They are likely to be January, but like I say, that is to be confirmed. This is the ones which are more obvious. So until the government let us know what's going on, the dates and exactly how they do this is to be confirmed. And it's the same for the GCSE statistics course. So in school, there's lots of support opportunities. We have revision clubs for Year 11s after school on a Thursday, and that'll be happening as soon as possible, and we will let your son or daughter know. There will also be some small group interventions for all year groups, but a priority will be Year 11, and that will be taking place at different times, including tutorial. The tools that every student should have, particularly from a GCSE perspective, is scientific calculator, protractor, compass, pencil, ruler, rubber, sharpener. And on the right-hand side is the formulae sheet that we have up in our rooms that the students have copies of, can be found anywhere on the internet. But if you simply Google GCSE formulae for maths or GCSE maths formulae, then you will get those results and you'll be able to see all the formulae that they need to remember and then apply. How you can support at home, make sure they've got all the equipment, please. Try to get them the revision guides. Be familiar with the websites, which we tell your sons and daughters and they write them down. But if there's any doubt, feel free to email us or get your son or daughter to ask us again. Encourage homework to be completed each week and encourage them to do additional revision on any weaknesses and strengths to further themselves. And make sure they sleep well and they are eating well. And there's a reminder of all key information in terms of contacting us and our phone numbers. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Joseph Berry. I'm the curriculum team leader for English. I'm just going to take you through a few details about what we offer Year 11 students. So first of all, your child will receive 2 qualifications. They are separate qualifications, one in English language and the other in English literature. In English language, your child will have 2 exams. One is Explorations in Creative Reading and Writing, which basically gives them an extract from a story, and they have a series of comprehension questions about that story. Section B on that paper is where they have to write a description, usually of a photograph or a story, and they get the option of those things. Paper 2, Writers' Viewpoints and Perspectives, is where they are asked to compare 2 non-fiction, usually articles, letters, speeches, that kind of thing. And then in section B, they write their own article, letter, or speech on a particular issue. So that's English language. In English literature, there are 2 papers. Paper 1, they study Macbeth under the banner of Shakespeare, and also for the 19th century novel, they study A Christmas Carol. Paper 2 is called Modern Texts and Poetry, and it kicks off with An Inspector Calls, which is classed as a modern text. That's a play. They then study poetry from the conflict cluster of the AQA anthology. And finally, section C in that exam is unseen poetry. They will be presented with a poem, in fact 2 poems that they've never read before, and they will be asked to analyse and compare those 2 poems. So, for English language, don't let your child tell you that they cannot revise for English language. It is true that they won't have seen the texts that come up in the papers, but if they're looking at various 19th to 21st century sources, particularly non-fiction sources if you can, things like travel writing, letters and articles from those centuries, 19th to 21st, that would be useful. Also, any fiction reading, novels, short stories are all useful. And the idea is all of the questions in the exams are always the same, it's just the source that's different. So your child will be told in English lessons what the questions are going to be. In fact, if you get hold of any past paper, you'll be able to see the questions that will be asked. And you can apply those questions to any sources. Okay, so in English literature, it's a little bit more clear-cut because there are set texts that your child can actually revise. Macbeth, A Christmas Carol and Inspector Calls. Your child can be looking at the characters, the themes, the relationships, the events in those texts, plus any useful quotations that they want to make banks of and write down, and historical contexts. The main form of revision for English literature will probably be the weekly sketchpad task, and you will have hopefully received a letter about those sketchpads. You'll certainly have seen your child carry those from school. In terms of the anthology poetry, it's the same kind of thing. Themes of the poems, writers' methods, and there they have to actually compare 2 poems that they've studied. So to be able to work on comparisons in their revision would be useful as well. There's no text to revise for unseen poetry, but if your child is reading a range of published poetry, that's useful in terms of that section of the English Literature Paper 2 exam. Further revision activities, I've already mentioned the sketchpads. They've received them on Thursday the 9th of September. Should have brought them home. But also GCSE Pod, which has been updated over the summer, now is even better than ever. And any element of English language or English literature is covered pretty comprehensively on the GCSE Pod website. So how can you help your child to revise? Well, other than generic ideas like providing a quiet place to work at home, which apply to every subject, obviously, the sketchpad is a big one. Okay, so your child should have received a sketchpad on the 9th of September, should have brought it home, but just encouraging them to fill that out every week in preparation for the next Monday's lesson would be useful. Discussing the text with your child, even if you haven't read them yourself. What are the themes of this text? What's the story about? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Why not? What characters do you respond to? Is the text still relevant today? These questions can really help your child to sort of frame opinions of the text, and that's really important. Sending your child to revision sessions, there will be more information on that in the coming weeks. Encouraging your child to read a newspaper. The kind of newspapers that are used in the exams tend to be broadsheet newspapers like The Guardian, The Independent, The Times. Encourage your child to look words up if they don't understand them. There are dictionaries freely available online. You might have one in the home. And making the GCSE texts available at home. You can buy them fairly cheaply on Amazon, all the texts that I've mentioned, as well as revision guides. CGP tend to be very good for revision guides. If you want more information, please feel free to contact me at the school. Finally, I've included a web link to the AQA website that has past exam papers in it. So doing past exam papers is a great way for your child to sort of upskill, and I'm sure that your child's English teacher would be happy to mark anything that they bring in that they've done at home.
Hi, my name is Mr. Mobbs and I'm here to talk to you about combined science, which is sometimes known as trilogy because there's 3 sciences, but it's not to be confused with the triple science, GCSEs. I'm here to try and give you some information about science and some tricks to help students revise. In science, there's a lot of content within the 3 subjects, biology, chemistry, physics, and as you can see, each one is split into 4 to 5 different topics, each one again with quite a bit of content within them. You can see in biology, we've got cells and organisation, disease and bioenergetics, biological responses, genetics and reproduction, and ecology. In chemistry, there's atomic structure and bonding, chemical reactions, organic reactions, and the earth and atmosphere. And in physics, there's matter and radioactivity, energy, waves, and forces. One question that's always asked is how best to support students in science, as there's quite a large amount of information in science, as well as also application of that information. We feel the best way to do that is to revise the content in small chunks and then revisit them quite often. And that way it should help students to gain more understanding of the content. Another way is to use GCSE Pod, which can be used in conjunction with your PLC to inform your revision. The GCSE Pod is separated into the small bite-sized parts, just like in our content is in lessons, so that should help as well. There will be in-school intervention, which is provided to help students and support them in their revision, and this will be targeted to specific students on specific topics. There are also revision guides for sale in the Science Prep Room. It's £5.60, which is a considerable discount on what you can buy them in Amazon and W. Smith's, which I think is about £10. You only need 1 revision guide. Here you can see the picture. There is 2 revision guides. That's one for the higher tier and one for the foundation tier. Students will only need 1. If you're not sure which tier to buy, students can ask their teacher, which will be able to guide them into which one would be suitable for them. One part that students also find difficult is the required practicals. These are practicals that are covered in lessons, but they're examined in the exam. They're worth 20% of the content. What I have done there is I've added a link to the practicals, and that will show which practicals are covered by the end of the course. There are 7 biology practicals, 6 chemistry practicals, and 8 physics practicals. Following on from that, here are some links to some videos that will allow students to go through each required practical in case they want to revise them to help their understanding of that practical. Another good place to look for revision will be BC Bite Size. This has been updated quite recently. It has a large amount of content. It has revision materials, tests and videos, which will help students with all different types of learning styles. Seneca Learning and GCSE Pod are also quite good to use to help with revision as well. One of the ways we try and help in science is we have a revision folder on the student shared area. This has large amounts of information and revision materials, and this can be accessed by any student, and we'll be adding this to this regularly, so students should keep checking it to see what has been added. As you can see, there are 6 exam papers, 2 in each subject. These are usually clustered in 2 groups. Each group consists of about 3 exam papers within about a week or so of each other. So there's usually 3 exam papers within a week, then there's usually a break, and then there's another further set of 3, again, usually within a week of each other. As you can see here, some exam dates. These are still provisional. You can see that Biology 1 is scheduled to be on the 17th of May, Biology 2 on the 15th of June, Chemistry 1 on the 27th of May, Chemistry 2 on the 20th of June, Physics 1 on the 8th of June, and Physics 2 on the 23rd of June. Another question we get asked is, how do the exam grades get awarded? As explained earlier, there are 6 papers, 2 biology, 2 chemistry, 2 physics. You get a mark for each paper, and these are then added up to get one large number. That number will be looked at to see where it fits within the grade boundaries. As you can see below, these are some grade bands from June 19. Specific numbers will give you a specific grade. As you can also see, you'll get 2 grades for this. These cannot be more than one apart. So for example, you can get a 5-5, a 6-5 or a 6-6, but you cannot get a 6-3 or 6-4. This will look on your exam paper as 2 numbers, so a 5-5 will look like number 55, but is in fact 2 GCSEs at grade 5. And each paper is 1 hour 15 minutes long. Hello, I'm Mr. Mobbs and I'm here to talk to you about Science Triple Award, which is also sometimes known as separate sciences. I'm going to try and give you some information about science and tricks to help the students revise. So as you can see, it's split into 3 sciences, biology, chemistry and physics. Each one of those has about 4 to 5 different topics within it, each one with quite a bit of content covered in it. So you can see in biology we've got cells and organisation, got disease and bioenergetics, biological responses, genetics, reproduction and ecology. In chemistry there's atomic structure and bonding, chemical reactions, organic reactions, the earth and atmosphere. And in physics we've got matter and radioactivity, energy, waves and forces. One question we're always asked is how to best support students in science. There's obviously large amounts of information as well as the application of that information as well. We feel that one of the best ways to cover content will be to do it in small chunks, but then revisit them quite often. One also way is using GCSE Pod, which is broken down into the same topics covered in the school, which can be then used in conjunction with your PLC to help with your revision. There's also going to be in-school intervention provided to support students that are targeted for some help. So that's specific students on specific topics. We do have revision guides available. These can be used on top of their class books. These are available in the science prep room. They're £2.85, which is considerably cheaper than you can buy them on WH Smith's and Amazon. I think they're £6 each. They are £2.85 for each science, so you would need one for physics, one for chemistry and one for biology. One part that students sometimes find quite difficult is the required practicals. These are practicals that are covered in lessons, but they're examined in the exam, and they're worth 20% of the exam content. What I've got there are some links to the practicals that will be covered by the end of the course. There are 10 biology practicals, 8 chemistry and 10 physics. Following on from that, these links are to videos that will go through how to complete each required practical in case students want to revisit them with their revision. These will help. Another good place to look for revision will be BBC Biteside. This has been updated recently. There's large amounts of content on there for revision, there's exams, there's also videos that will help with all different types of learning styles. There's also Seneca Learning and GCSE Pod, which again will be quite useful if you're looking to cover content and look at revising. One way we do try to help in science is we've got a revision folder on the student shared drive. This has large amounts of info and also lots of revision materials. This can be accessed by any student and we will be adding to this folder quite regularly. As you can see, there are 6 papers, 2 for each subject, and they usually go in batches of 3s. 3 exams together, usually within a week or so of each other. Then there's usually a break, and then there's the second batch again of 3 exams, usually within about a week of each other. These exam dates are provisional at the moment, but as you can see, the Biology 1 paper is on the 17th of May, the Biology 2 is on the 15th of June, the Chemistry 1 paper is on the 27th of May, Chemistry 2 on the 20th of June, Physics 1 on the 8th of June, and Physics 2 on the 23rd of June. One question I do get asked quite regularly is how do the exams work? How do you get awarded a certain grade? There are obviously 6 papers, and what actually happens in triple science is both biology paper, there are a score given to each one, they are added together, and that is looked at against grade boundaries and given a grade. You will receive a biology GCSE, a chemistry GCSE, and a physics GCSE. And each of the exam papers is an hour and 45 minutes.